What's up, Mysterious Huntsman fans? This is Paul. I'm your host. And tonight we have Dewayne from Maryland that's going to be coming on and sharing a collection of stories that he's had happen to him his whole life growing up in southern Maryland. And it ranges from some paranormal stuff to Dogman encounters. And Dewayne's a great guy, and you're really going to enjoy listening to him, and I'm definitely going to have him back. And without further ado, let's see what Dewayne's got to say. Hey, Dewayne, this is Paul with the Mysterious Huntsman podcast. How are you doing tonight?
I'm all right. How about yourself?
Doing good. Thanks, man, for asking. And I'm so glad you reached out to me. And you said you have not tons, but you have some stories you want to tell everyone. And they sound incredible. And I just appreciate you coming on. And sometimes it takes bravery. Sometimes people don't really care. But whatever the case is, I'm so glad you're here. And I'm just going to let you tell everyone about yourself a little bit, as much as you want to, and then you can get started on your stories.
Okay. Well, a little bit about myself. As a child, my father left early, and my mother had I got a stepfather, and I was kind of stuck in the house with him. We didn't really do much. He's kind of an introvert. So I was stuck to, reading comics that take me, back in the woods to explore, which was something different. My dad did take me fishing in the woods and stuff, but, my buddy was like, hey, you got to see these other spaces. And one of those spaces was Paralyzed. And I know a lot of people on different podcasts and stuff like that have talked about Paralyzed. And I honestly think there is something to that, because down these power lines, we would go down for about a half mile and then go off to the right side. And there was this big open field, and we used to call it Jurassic Park because it looked like it was from, the past. Like everything was overgrown. It was huge. So he first took me back there, and it was cool the first few times. But I want to say about the fourth time we went back, we had our boom boxes. We're riding, everybody had the little trick bike, what were they, mongooses, I think they were called.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, everybody has those things. So
right.
We're sitting at the top of this hill, and this area, if you would look at it, it was built like a bowl. And we were sitting on the ridge of the bowl, and down in the bowl was this tall grass. So we're sitting there with this boom box, and we're just hanging out. And, we're talking about old kung fu movies we used to watch, like the 36 Chambers and stuff, just being young guys. And I think we were 11 or 12. And I seen some movement out the corner of my eye, and I start slapping him. I'm looking at this area, and I start slapping him because I'm like, dude, there's a freaking bear. And he's like, what? So I looked at him, and I'm like shaking. I'm like, yo, there's a bear over there. So when I look back over, there's literally a Dogman standing in this tall grass. Now, this grass is about, I was like 5'6" or something at the time, and his chest area was above that, and it's just looking at us, and it has like the craziest like anger in its eyes, I want to say. Like it's like it's mad. It just looked mad, like it was ticked off that we were there. It just looked, I don't know how to explain it. It just, no sound or anything from it, but it just looked like pissed. I'm sorry to use that word, but it looked mad. And I'm like, we have to go. So we hop on our bikes, and we're going back down these, the power lines, and they have all those hills and stuff. And we're going back home, and I can hear it, like, coming through the woods. Like people always say, oh, it sounds like a tractor's coming through the woods. It does. It really does. Those things just ripped through foliage, trees, anything. It sounded crazy. And the other thing that it did too was it threw a rock, which I know a lot of people say Bigfoot do, but it threw one of these huge rocks, and I kind of leaned to the left side on my bike and like to dodge it, and this rock flew right past my head, and the worst thing happened to me at this moment: chain pops.
Oh, wow.
So I'm coasting now on these power lines, trying to get away from this thing. But it stopped at the top of one of the hills, and when I looked back, there was another one that came out of the side of the woods that was right there running along the whole time, and we never noticed it. And I peeved myself. When we finally got back to the main road, I was like, dude, never again. Never again. I'm not coming back in these woods. It was terrifying. And we've been back there, plenty of times, and nothing ever happened. But that was terrifying. And I'm getting chills. I don't want to sound so cliche, but man, it scared me. It scared me, man.
Well, yeah.
I've never had anything like that happen to me ever.
You know what?
Ever.
Approximately what year was this, or how long ago has this been?
This was in the mid-90s.
Okay.
So a lot of that area now is, they built up on it. The power lines and all that is still there, but the surrounding areas, there's a lot of houses and stuff around it now. And there's actually old folks home there, which I'm like, why? Why? You have these people walking out in this like little small garden area. I'm like, they could just be snatched up, and no one would ever know. And you'll think, oh, they have dementia or something. They walked off. And the funny thing about it, here lately, there's been a lot of reports of people, old folks, disappearing.
Really?
Nobody knows where they're going. Like, it's like, man. And then you can't go to the police station and say, hey, well, back in the day, I saw this, and maybe that's what it is, because they're going to say, okay, well, you need to take a peek there.
Right.
But it's literally right there. Where that open field is, the field and all that is still there. And this old folks' home is right, like a 5-minute walk through the woods. Right there.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, I don't know if you mentioned it at the beginning, what state you're in. You don't have to
I'm sorry.
No, you don't have I wanted to say certainly don't give specifics, but a lot of times when someone says what state they're from, it'll prompt others to say, hey, I had an encounter in Tennessee as well, or Alabama, Georgia, whatever. So if you don't mind,
right, I understand.
If you don't mind, I mean, what state are you in?
I'm actually in Southern Maryland here, so
okay.
I apologize for that. I meant to say that at the beginning.
No, that's fine. I didn't know some don't want to say, and that I'm totally okay with that too. I just in Southern Maryland, you guys have a little bit of everything going on down there, actually.
Yeah, because actually, if you want, I can get into a couple of other stories, because we've had, like I said, Ghost Adventures and a couple other shows have come here, because we have like the old slave homes and stuff like that at our beaches. And so there's a lot of ghost activity down there. And there's a pier where I live, and it goes pretty good distance out into the water. And me and a couple buddies and his uncle, we all went down. We decided to go fishing, so we're out there fishing. And about 20 minutes in, after getting the rod set up and all that, we start seeing what looked like bodies floating in the water. And this is going to sound crazy, and it's kind of messed up, but his uncle books it back to the car. He's like, y'all better be behind me, because I'm going to leave you. So he takes off, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm not the only one seeing it. So everybody turns around and look, because we're thinking like Godzilla or something's coming out the water.
Right.
And you look, and it literally looks like there's bodies floating in the water. So we hightail it to the car down this dock. We get in the car, and one of my buddies, he's one of these real, I'm tough and gruff, one of those kind of guys. And we're driving back down the road, and I'm trying to get everything in the car situated because we're sitting on top of each other. That's how scared we were. So I'm trying to move stuff around. And my buddy's uncle, his wife, she starts screaming. And then they start yelling. And I'm like, what in the world now? So I look up, and they're like, did you see it? Did you see it? And this is going to sound even more crazy, but they claimed that it was like a 3-foot tall, like goat man. They said it looked like a kid with goat legs. Came up to the guardrail. That's walked up as they were making this turn. Just walked up and looked at the car, like watched the car drive by. And I know there has to be a little bit of truth to it because he was swerving his car. We were teenagers. We weren't driving. We weren't at the age to drive. But I remember feeling a car swerve. And I'm like, what in the world? Because, I got coolers on my lap and stuff. I'm trying to sit comfortably. And they're saying, oh, yeah, there was looked like maybe a 5-year-old with goat legs walked up to the guardrail. So, I mean, take it or leave it. That's what they told me. I never personally saw it, but that's what they said they saw.
And this was after you guys saw the bodies in the water?
Right after the ghost experience. And one of my family members was down there camping and said she woke up and seen a whole, a battalion of like soldiers standing around her, marching. And this is in the same place, this beach is known to be haunted. If you look up Southern Maryland and you look up haunted beaches, you'll find it right there. Yeah. Everybody knows it's not a secret. Like this place it's heavy with, Indian, Native American, past and, slave ships and all that, Confederate, all that. It's all, we are like, I don't know what's the good word for it, but we got it all here.
Yeah,
we got it all.
Sound like ground zero, the epicenter for everything strange.
I like to say this is where God put his spare parts.
Oh no. Well, hey, there was that area is definitely with everything that went on, especially back in those days. It was just tragic, tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. A lot of bad energy went on there. So, if you get into a lot of the stone tape theories, wherever these kind of energies are left behind, it just imprints it there in time. And that kind of what was it your cousin that saw the battalion marching? Your cousin?
It was actually it was an aunt of mine.
Oh yeah.
They were down there hanging out, and they decided to pitch tents and stay the night and do some fishing and stuff.
Right.
She said she woke up because it was raining and she heard the rain on the top of her tent, and that's what woke her up. And she saw this clear as day. She said she saw them. They walked right past her through the tent and all that, and they just disappeared. She even went outside of the tent and saw, like she said, she could just see him for I don't know how many feet, but she said she could see him coming out of the woods and everywhere, and they were dressed in that old, Confederate clothing and all that.
Yeah.
And if you go down there, people who metal detect and all that, man, they find bullets and all kinds of belt buckles, you name it. They find all kind of stuff down there, man.
Oh, yeah, and what I was kind of thinking about or alluding to was a lot of times when you hear this kind of account where they see people or this battalion marching, or they see these things that really they're not aware that you're there, they're just kind of doing their own thing. It's more of like of a residual haunt, not an intelligent haunt,
Right.
not in where it doesn't interact with you or anyone. It's not dangerous. It's I'm not sure. There's a lot of scientific theories about that sort of thing, where it may not be paranormal. It's just something. The conditions are right that it releases like an imprint in time, basically, of these things marching or these things moving, and they have no clue that we're there. They're just going about their business, or time slip kind of deal. So it's
You're right, and not to cut you off, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
But the way she explained it is just the way you said it. They never noticed her. They didn't look at her, or excuse me, and move out of the way. They just were on a mission, and it's almost like a coffee stain in reality.
Oh, yeah.
It's just there. So that's when she told me that's what it kind of brought to my attention. I don't have a better way to explain it because I am not the best of words, but yeah, it's almost like a coffee stain. It's there. It's not going anywhere. You can try to scrub it away, but
hey, I like that. I like that term. I like how you phrase that. That's really good. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's just there, and it's not there, but it's you do whatever you want to, but it still exists on top of whatever's there already. It just doesn't go away, and I don't know if that's from pain or anything, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, it is, and there's everyone has an opinion and everyone has a theory on these things, and I don't think anything's been like proven for sure, obviously, but maybe we'll know one day. But there's a lot of theories about it. It's very interesting. I've been on investigations where I haven't seen anything. I've heard like old telephone bells ringing. I've heard footsteps. When I say old telephone, I'm talking about something from like the 40s and 50s. The old bell rings in these old houses and haunted hospitals and stuff. I've heard these things with my own ears and captured them on audio and stuff, but never seen anything. Not yet. But I believe I believe there are time slips. I believe there are residual haunts. I don't really know what to think about some of the electronic voice phenomenon that we capture sometimes, on how when you're out asking questions and you got a tape recorder and you're picking up answers that you can't hear, but when you play them back, you'll hear other answers. I don't know how that gets on there. That's boggles my mind. But I've heard some crazy things from some very credible witnesses, and it keeps me going, keeps me fuel to keep digging more.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm in the same boat. It really fascinates me. Some stuff is like, you're on the fence about, of course, but when you get a really good situation happen, it's like, man, it just pulls you in more.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to go back to the Dogman encounter, and that's something that you don't hear. You hear a lot about it now, but reports from back in the day, and you didn't hear about that much. I bet the reports were always there. It's just I think people feel more comfortable coming out now with them. And
well, you know what the thing is, when I originally saw it, my mind, because you're told, well, there's no such thing as werewolves, stuff like that. So my mind went straight to Bigfoot because that was so popular at that time, and I thought, oh well, this is a Bigfoot. But then when I noticed it had ears similar to my dog, I'm like, oh, I've never heard of Bigfoot being explained that way. And it wasn't until, these cryptid podcasts that I started hearing people explain it, and I'm like, this is a freaking Dogman. The whole time I was like, it was just a weird-looking big dog-faced Bigfoot. That's what I thought. Until I started listening to these podcasts and hearing, I'm like, this is a freaking Dogman the whole time.
Yeah.
And I didn't have words for it because like I said, I was always told, oh, well, werewolves, and I don't want to call them werewolves.
Right.
But, that was your whole thought pattern. Growing up, monsters don't exist. That's not really what it was. And it's like, what else did my parents lie to me about? Santa Claus ain't real, the Tooth Fairy ain't real, damn it.
Right.
But the Dogman is. You got it backwards, people.
Right.
But yeah, that was my thought pattern or way of thinking at that time.
Yeah, same here. And it's also interesting that you saw this on a power line, and there have been a lot of reports of Bigfoot and Dogman on power lines, and I wonder why that is. There's a lot of people that'll say, well, you have a lot of animals that follow those power. And I grew up in South Alabama. There's tons of land management and power lines, and we always noticed that the deer would hang close to these power lines. And that's why even today you'll see hunters will put up their tree stands or their blinds on power lines because they know the deer will cross there. So same principle. If you're an apex predatory hunter, you're going to follow the animals or you're going to follow the game. So
right, everybody knows where to find a McDonald's.
You're right.
But the other thing about it now, this is what I left out, and I didn't think about it until you just brought that up. There was a few times that we went back there, and we would see pentagrams made, and there was beer bottles, and there was blood, and all kinds of stuff back there. And, of course, being kids, you're just kind of like, whatever. And you keep on riding, you take your little, BB gun and you do what you do. But now that I'm older, I'm like, what the hell was going on back there?
Right.
Because there was actually an old school model bug, Volkswagen bug.
Yeah.
It was back there and they had set it on fire. Now, how they got it back there, if you see this area, I have no freaking clue. But it was back there. And there was blood. There was, 2 or 3 dead rabbits that they had ripped open, and there was all kind of stuff, man. So I don't know if that had something to do with it as well, but it definitely was somewhere we shouldn't have been. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, probably so. And even your amateur, like people that deal with some of this ritual. Or even satanic ritual or anything like that, when they start even dabbling with things they don't understand, using pentagrams, blood sacrifices, even if they don't know what they're doing, that's sometimes all it takes for these otherworldly things to take notice. And, it doesn't take a lot. I'm just going to go out there and say I have a Christian-based faith, and it doesn't, I don't think personally, in my opinion, I don't think it takes a lot for someone to invite evil into their lives, just or maybe some kind of demonic activity. I don't think it takes a lot to invite it in because I think they're just waiting until we open ourselves up to them just a little bit, and that's just me.
Oh yeah, just crack that door. Just crack the door.
Yeah, and like I said, that's just me. I would never step on anyone else's opinions or views on faith or anything, but that's just me personally, how I feel about these things.
And I'm somewhat in the same boat as you. I grew up Christian too, but one thing my dad used to always say was, pray, over your food. And when I was younger, I would say, why? He said, well, what's the first thing people do when they start choking on their food? They scream, oh God. So if you don't have faith, what are you calling on him for, right?
Right.
So I do agree with you. I think that there's, energies are different. And especially being around power lines where the energy's kind of boosted, and you go back there and you start playing with stuff, and all of a sudden it's like, it's like a revolving door. You're just letting things in and out, in and out, in and out.
Yeah.
And you never know what's coming through. And it's dangerous. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, I agree. And you were very insightful to recognize the fact that there is a high output of electromagnetic activity there. So it's, yeah, a lot of people don't think like that. So you've been doing your research or at least digging into it a little bit. So that's very insightful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
and I'd like to tell you another little story, or two more if you have the time.
Oh yeah, I'm good, man.
When I was, let's say about 5 or 6 years old, I remember my dad waking up and kind of screaming and walking around the house and like trying to, like really like not comfortable with himself. And I was like, what is going on? Well, when I got older, I was about 18. He told me that he woke up and rolled over to look at my mother. Just how you roll over in the bed. And he said her face was a skull, and it kind of disappeared into like dust. And when he turned over back to the other side to get up out the room, there was a hat man standing there.
Wow.
And he just ran towards it to actually leave the house. He said I hate to put it this way, but he wanted to go. He was done. He didn't try to help us or anything. And it was gone. And back then, that's when we had those old VCRs that had those blinking lights.
Oh yeah.
So if you didn't have so that's all he saw. And he said every time it would blink and come back on, he would see more shadows. And I'm just like, that's freaking terrifying. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
He said he went through the living room, cut on every light in the house, and just sat there and cried before, me and my mother woke up. So I don't know. That was just something I wanted to add to it.
But no, that's it's another it's a great account, and it's weird because I was just speaking with someone a couple of days ago that mentioned he didn't call it the Hat Man, but what his mother described it as, and this was back probably in the 70s or 80s when he was talking about this. And this was before we had podcasts or internet, obviously, and all these things that could tell people kind of what they're looking at or what they're seeing. But he was describing a Hat Man, or he was describing what his mom had seen. And that's crazy because that thing has been seen by so many people. There's so many accounts of it. Now I don't know what it is. I mean, there's a lot of theories about these shadow people, or they see the guy with a hat, and some people think this is how the devil manifests themselves, but he's always wearing a hat, like an old fedora or a top hat or something. But it's just it seems to be universal, this Hat Man phenomenon. So it's kind of weird you brought that up.
I tell you what, I'm glad I haven't seen it. Excuse my language.
No,
of all the things that has happened to me in my life, and I have some Native American blood. People always use that as like Native Americans are the only ones that experience supernatural stuff, and I don't mean it that way. But
right.
I'm telling you, of all the stuff that I have seen and experienced, the Hat Man and the Rake, I think, are, after seeing the Dogman, no thank you. I need an Iron Man suit to live in this world if I ever see that. Yeah. I'm not prepared for that, man. I'm telling you. I had another experience with the Dogman as well. I don't know if you want to hear about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I was in high school, about 9th grade, and I decided to walk through this little path in the woods to go to my buddy's house. And, we were going there. He said he had this new, I think it was Warcraft or something like that game. So I was like, okay, I'll come by and, we'll play it. And, this was at night, this experience. So it's like pitch black dark. And it's one of those Maryland darks. If you ever been in Maryland when it's like dark, it's one of those nights. So this path it's only maybe a 5-minute walk through from my neighborhood to his. So I walk through, and when I get to his neighborhood and the path opens, I see this huge mass, and I think it's just grass or something. I didn't pay any attention to it really. I'm still walking. Then I realize it's moving, and I hear like, I don't know how to explain it. Like if you would take like a Capri Sun or like something filled with juice and shake it like a jug and shake it.
Yeah.
I hear that sound, and then I hear like the dripping and all that. And the closer I'm getting to this thing, I realize it's something eating something. And I start hearing like bones cracking, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm literally like 10 feet away from this thing, seriously. And I instantly got scared because of how big it was. And I thought, maybe this is a bear. You don't want to walk up on a bear, especially if it's eating and it's got its back turned to you.
Right.
You don't want to, on any predatory animal, that's a no-no. So I decide, just out of fear of how close I am and also thinking, I don't know what this is. So if it's something else that runs in packs, there might be something that'll come and get me from the side or the back. So I decided to run past it. And I run past this thing, and I get into the light. Well, it started chasing me, but as soon as it hit the light, for whatever reason, it backed back into the shadows and continued eating this neighbor's dog that was there. And you could just hear it, just crunching the bones, and like you could just tell it was just, oh my God, man! It was whatever. I don't have words for it, but it was having a blast with whatever it was eating, and I'm pretty sure it was a neighbor's dog, because that thing, every time I walked past there, it would bark and was loud and would try to run at you. But that night, didn't hear it. And this thing, I mean, it was huge. It was huge. And it was down on all fours. And when I look back from the, after coming through the path and actually being on the actual street and seeing the, trying to get a better view of it with a little bit of light that I had from the street light, I could see it. It was like the same Dogman thing that I saw before. It had the same ears that almost looks like a mane on its back of its head and neck, and it was massive. It was massive. It was tearing.
Was this in the same area? Or was it kind of in the same area that you saw the other one?
Yeah. Well, okay, so the power line to this place is, I want to say like a 10-minute ride on a bike. So it's not that far.
Okay.
I'm sorry if you hear my dog in the back.
No, that's good.
They turn into Call of Duty characters when they hear somebody outside.
Hey, you may better go see what it is.
Well, there's my cousin showed up. But well, can you give me a second? I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
I'm gonna mute you for a second.
All right.
Still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, where was I?
You were talking about the same area, I guess, of both the Dogman and sightings. They're kind of close, or within 10 minutes of each other, I guess.
Oh yeah. It's not that far now. Now they have a road that goes straight through it. It used to be all wood, but it's a road. But it's not that far from where we originally seen the first Dogman encounter that we had. It's really, really close. So I'm almost thinking that it might have been the same one. And I hear people say that those things are attracted to you when you have something emotionally going on in your life.
Right.
And that may have been the case because I really didn't care for my stepfather at the time. Like he wasn't like physically abusive or anything like that. He was just a jerk. You know, he was just really rude. Like, you know, you'd have a toaster screw or pop tart or something. He'd eat it and he'd be like, "Hey, what happened to this?" And he'd be like, "Oh, here no more." Like he was just a jerk. I just didn't like him.
Yeah.
So at the time, and then on top of it, with a lot of things too, when you're going through puberty, and you know, you remember like what is those old movies like the old Titan movies, and you know, with this old stop motion cartoons, there's always a version that they had to sacrifice.
Oh yeah, like Clash of the Titans.
And I think, right, that's what it is, Clash of the Titans.
Yep.
So I think that energy of purity also attracts things. Maybe it's just me. I haven't heard anybody else say it, but I think that energy also that draws things towards people and forces something on them.
Well, no. Once again, like I said, you're very insightful because that it's been thrown around in these circles as a theory that, like, you know, boys and girls reaching puberty,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a certain amount of energy that is expelling or maybe being, what's the word? Even suppressed, I guess, can cause some things. And this is probably a stretch, but I've actually kind of heard that before. That we're all telekinetic to a degree, and it seems like some things, like take for example poltergeist activity, sometimes I've heard will manifest around homes where there are prepubescent kids, or you know, boys and girls about to go through puberty. I've heard that sometimes poltergeist activity can escalate or even just show up, and who knows what that is. So, but yeah, once again, you're spot on, man.
Well, I try to be. I try to think logically before I just give any type of, you know, I automatically believe this or that. You know, I try to put pieces together and, you know, have the puzzle look like it's supposed to on the box.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
I wish everyone would do that.
Yeah, I don't. Well, you know, not everybody is is in the same mind frame either. You know, we all don't go through the same things. We all don't see the same things. And that's what bothers me too. It's like, you have people who believe in UFOs, but then they say Bigfoot can't be real. It's like, really? Like, you've seen something crazy. How can you tell this person they're crazy? And I get it. Sometimes people tell you some outlandish story, like, "Oh, I went on a date with Bigfoot. He took me to Red Lobster." Okay, yeah. But you know what I mean? But you know, sometimes people you can hear it in their voice. They're really affected by this stuff, man. It's not.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what it is, you know, whether it's Dogman or Bigfoot or, you know, they see a ghost or, you know, whatever it is. They're affected by it, and you cannot tell these people that they're crazy. That's the worst thing you can do, is tell somebody they're crazy for seeing what they saw.
Oh, absolutely.
That's not. You know, and that's why I like what you do. You know, these guys, these podcasts out here, that actually give people a space to just open up, man, because it relieves you. It really does. It takes some pressure off of your heart, man.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that, and I totally agree with you, and that's the reason I created this, is because some of the things I talk about with my family and friends, they looked at me like I was crazy. So I was like, there's got to be other places out there just to be able to talk and you know, get this off your chest without being called nuts or looked at funny or not invited to the next family reunion or whatever. So.
Yeah. And like I said, you don't have to agree with people, but just don't treat them like they're nuts.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's all it is. That's the way I take it. You know, to me, the universe is based off of two principles: embrace or deflect. The earth will embrace a meteor or it'll deflect it, and that's how the world works. That's just how energy works. You know, if you don't believe it, you don't like it, you don't have to accept it. Keep it moving. You don't have to be mad or say rude stuff to people. Keep it moving, man. Go on about your day. You know? So.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I 1,000% agree with you. And that's the thing about, I'm going to get on my soapbox here a little bit, but so I said earlier I was raised Christian, and of course South Alabama, the Bible Belt, the whole 9 yards. And I'm trying to figure out how to word this without getting in trouble. But I mean, we were yeah. So yeah, I'm venting now to you. So, we're raised this way, and I get it, and I'm all on board, but at the same time, don't be so close-minded enough to think that there's not supernatural stuff still happening out here. You know, if you really know your Bible and read back into it, the Bible is full of supernatural occurrences. So
exactly,
you can't ask me to believe in this, and then fast forward to nowadays, and well, you can't believe that there are flying saucers, other planets, extraterrestrials, other cryptid animals that we haven't discovered yet.
Exactly.
Other interdimensional beings. You can't ask me to believe in just the Bible and not believe in all this. I think God still deals with in the supernatural realms. I mean, it even says that there are other, realms out there. There's principalities of the air, and our fight is not against flesh, but the principalities of the darkness. I mean, there's tons that we don't understand. So, if just don't box me in just to the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Right. And this is something too to think about. Now, what you saying, that just brought something to my attention. We call it supernatural, but what if it's just natural? That's what it is. We're just not used to it. We got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, so now we're in this world that is quote unquote supernatural to us because we're not used to being in this environment. You know what I mean? And
right.
You think about it, the Bible even talks about lion head men of what is it?
Judah.
Jerusalem or
Judah.
Right.
Yeah.
But a dog head man is crazy? Like, come on. It's all there. And then you think about the stuff that they're doing with CERN, and they're open and stuff, and plenty of the scientists that are there said, man, there's stuff that has came through and people that have went in that we don't know what the hell happened to them.
Right.
Either or. So, the veil is lifted. We have to start looking at this stuff and not only protecting ourselves, whether it's spiritually or however, but we need to be aware that this stuff is out there. You can't just say, oh, no, this is fine. I enjoy watching Harry Potter, but the Bible is crazy. Oh, shut up.
Right. Right.
And I get it. It sounds ridiculous. Of course, the Bible has things in it that it just sounds crazy, but it's no more crazier than reality TV that people watch.
Right.
She's got 15 kids, there's 20 guys. Who's the father? What? Why is that no less crazier than seeing a hairy man in the woods? Seriously.
Right. Or can you imagine when in Ezekiel, when he came back and told people, hey, I saw this big giant wheel within a wheel come out of the sky, and these creatures stepped off. Each one of them had 4 heads, one of a lion, an eagle. Can you imagine what they thought about him? So.
Exactly. And the same people that'll sit there and say, oh, that's crazy, have multiple personalities. So how many heads do they have?
Exactly.
I'm just joking, but yeah, you get what I mean, you know.
Oh, I'm right on board with you, man.
What's normal to the spider is chaos to the fly.
Nice.
You know.
I like it.
So,
well, man,
that's the way the world works, man.
You're right. Well, I'm going to have you back, man. It's like we can sit here and really bounce off of each other and come up with different ideas, and I like that.
Absolutely, man. I feel like I've known you my whole life, honestly. I think you owe me a beer.
What? Well, if you make it down to Nashville, I'll buy you one.
All right, as long as the music's good.
Well, have you got anything else you want to another story, or you're good to go on this one?
I have a bunch, man. I'm not going to hold your night up tonight. I just wanted to make sure I touched bases with you finally. It was really nice talking to you, man. And I like I said, I do appreciate you having this platform for people to come out and say what they got to say or how they feel. You know, it's just nice to have someone not judge you. I tell my fiance this, and she'll, okay, you know, you get the eye roll. All right, whatever. But even though me and her had a UFO experience, it was ridiculous. But I'll save that for next time if you want to call me back sometime. Oh,
yeah, I'll do that soon because that's some of my favorite topics right there.
Okay. And actually, to add to that, not to cut you off and say this real quick, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
We live 2 minutes from a large naval base. So there's a lot of craziness that goes on with that, too. And yeah.
I bet.
You got to call me back, man.
I will.
Call me back.
I definitely will. And, well, you've got my number now. So anytime, if you need something, reach out to me and, I'll do the same.
All right.
Well, all right, man. Well, thanks, for reaching out. Thanks for coming on tonight. And I will let you know when, this gets dropped on YouTube and, all the other podcast platforms. But, man, anytime you want to come back on, give me a shout. You're more than welcome.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, man. It's been a blast. I can't tell you how relieved I feel to get some of this stuff off my chest, because I told people and they just look at me crazy, or, you know, are you drunk, or, you know, so it just feels, it's nice, man. It's really nice. You don't realize what you do for people, man. There might even be somebody on suicide watch that may call you and, you know, you help them out. You never know, man. So keep up what you're doing, man. It's really a pleasure, and you're a great guy too, man. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, man. I don't know if I deserve all that, but I really appreciate it. And yeah, like you, if anybody wants to talk, I'm just here. Just all you gotta do is reach out. Well, Dewayne, thanks again, man. And I'm gonna call you back soon because I want to hear the rest of the stories. And
all right, man. Well,
you have a good week.
Have a good night. You too.
All right. Take care, bro.
All right, man.
All right.
Have a good one.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Later.
And that's a wrap on another episode of Mysterious Huntsman podcast. Big shout out and a huge thanks to Dewayne from Maryland for coming forward and telling me some of his stories and his accounts. I love those kinds of stories, and Dewayne just seems like a great guy. And with that said, I'm still here, guys. If you would love to come on the show, I'll be glad to listen, and just give me a shout. MysteriousHuntsman@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, all the major podcast platforms, and I'm on YouTube as well. All right. Thanks, guys, and have a great week, and we will talk to you soon.